Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. If you look at the global markets, the US Fed is pumping money like crazy. In 2008, their balance sheet was about $2 trillion. This time, it has already crossed $7 trillion. In the 2008 global crisis, their balance sheet jumped from about $1 trillion to $2.2 trillion. This time, it has jumped from about $4 trillion to $7 trillion in this year. With that kind of money support, whenever some positive news about vaccine came through, it pushed all stock markets on the higher side. Post-US election and post-vaccine news, emerging market flows have exploded in November 2020. This has pushed equity valuation on the higher side. Now, compared to historical average, global equity markets are trading at a higher valuation. More importantly, for the first time, global equity market cap has crossed $100 trillion. This is 115% of global GDP. And to some extent, this is supported by potential upswing in corporate profitability. All street estimate about corporate earnings across the world is looking at a rebound in 2021 calendar year, as well as rebound in 2022 calendar year after negative earnings in 2020. If we come to Indian economy, well, we are not out of the woods. Compared to other countries, we enforced lockdown early and stringent. This resulted into our GDP contracting higher than anyone else. More importantly, inflation has also been running above RBI's comfort level for last 7 months. Rupee had weakened compared to other currencies during this pandemic. Unemployment numbers, while normalizing as per Indian standard, it continues to remain high compared to other countries. And our current account surplus, after decades of current account deficit, has become surplus, but it is small compared to other countries. Clearly, we can't say Indian economy has moved out of the woods. However, month-on-month recovery has been amazing. September was better than August, October was better than September, November turned out to be better than October, and December hopefully should be better than November. Between the first quarter GDP degrowth of 23.9% and second quarter GDP degrowth of 7.5%, we had the fastest ever growth, fastest sequential growth among large economies. This is even more remarkable considering the fact that during this period in July to September 2021, government expenditure has contracted. In all parts of the world, government has been spending money. Avinash, I will tell you when to move the slide. In all parts of the world, governments are taking the lead in spending money. In India's case, we are spending less than what was spent previous year. Surprisingly, in the second quarter, investment drop is minimum. Thereafter, it's consumption. And finally, it is the government expenditure, which is down about 25% plus year on year. Like other countries, if our government expenditure was positive, we may have seen far lesser contraction in GDP growth than 7.5% announced in second quarter. Next slide, please. Central government spending, if we see over the years, it was growing in almost double digit for last 3 years. And this year, there has been flat level. There is virtually zero growth in central government spending. Next slide, please. If you look at all the data onto the economy side, by and large, red is moving towards green. The data across imports, exports, electricity consumption, e-way bill generation, unemployment, all are pointing towards sharper and sharper month-on-month recovery. Next slide, please. If you look at Nomura India Business Resumption Index, which is combination of multiple factors, it has finally started moving up with a succession, with a rapid movement from somewhere around 80 towards the middle of September. It has now almost touched 90 towards end of November. Next slide, please. If you look at GST collection, that collection has come at more than 1 lakh crore for second month in a row. And that gives confidence that hopefully Indian economy is on the path of recovery. The PMI number also, which are indicative towards future, have started coming at the higher level in the space of expansion, and it has remained consistently above 50. Next slide, please. However, this is a medical crisis and it will require medical solution. Fortunately, now there are some light visible at the end of the tunnel. Pfizer vaccine, Moderna vaccine, and AstraZeneca vaccine are all at various stages of emergency approval. Pfizer vaccine has been approved in UK for emergency purpose. They have even applied in India for emergency approval. Hopefully, with the vaccine approval coming through, we should be in a position to go back to normalcy. Next slide, please. In India's case, because we don't have cold storage capacity, a vaccine like Moderna or Pfizer, which requires tremendous cold storage distribution network, will not be as important for us. For us, room temperature or normal distribution capabilities with AstraZeneca and Novavax will be more appropriate. Even without the vaccine, the COVID cases in India has come down below 4 lakh from just under 10 lakh in last couple of weeks. This is a fantastic development, and let's hope and pray that we don't end up facing second wave of infection like US and Europe is right now facing. Next slide, please. The second quarter earnings in Nifty has come relatively far better. This has come way above expectation of investors. In March 20 quarter, Nifty PAT was down 19%. In June 20, it came down by 31%. In September 20 quarter, Nifty earning is up 17%. This is way beyond everyone's expectation. This 17% growth in profit is all the more impressive considering the fact that sales were down 7%. Despite sales coming down by 7%, EBITDA margin expanded, and that expansion pushed PAT profit growth to grow at 17%. 31 companies out of Nifty 50 delivered above expected profitability. If we go to the broad market, next slide, please. Even in broad market, earnings are on way up. Like Nifty, PAT is up almost similar 16% level, despite sales volume down 7%. And EBITDA margins have expanded 9%. This EBITDA margin expansion can be attributed to, next slide please, tremendous cost control which corporate India has exercised. All discretionary expenditure related to travel, entertainment, business promotion, advertising, etc. has been cut across the sector, across the companies. This tremendous cost control has helped India Inc. to post double-digit profit growth despite sales coming down by higher single digit. Next slide, please. This has resulted into earnings upgrade across the street. This earnings upgrade are coming after 23 quarters of downgrade in previous years. This has resulted into FY22 earnings growth for Nifty 50 companies coming in at roughly 38%, and FY21 expectation is almost similar to FY20. If these profit numbers are achieved, undoubtedly markets will look far better from a valuation point of view. For this profits to turn around, clearly companies which are making losses in financial services space, in telecom space, in conglomerate, especially with global focus space, those companies must make profit so that overall Nifty profit pool can expand. If you look at the profit pool of about top 1,000 companies, they were in the range of about 5,25,000 crores pre-COVID level. They came down to 3,75,000 crore and then has risen to 4,25,000 crore. Now the real question is, can we go back to pre-COVID level in terms of profitability? The September 21 quarter does suggest that we will not only go back to pre-COVID level, but we can actually exit the same. The Nifty 50 company's profit in September quarter was 1,07,000 crore. Obviously, that's just 50 companies. If that number can be sustained, then certainly corporate profitability will be at par or better with pre-COVID level. Next slide, please. If you look at the markets, well, the FPI's buying has been truly amazing. In last 12 months, India is the only emerging market in peer group which has received positive FPI flows. Post 5th November meeting, buying has surpassed everyone's expectation. Next slide, please. In the month of November, we have received highest ever FII inflows exceeding $8 billion. Next slide, please. This pulled up performance across the board, sectorally bearing banks, real estate, and media and financial services. Almost all sector calendar year to date has delivered positive return. Large caps have rallied more than mid caps and small caps have rallied more than the large cap on a calendar year basis, which shows that market is now seeing broad market rally. Next slide, please. If you look at the month of November, all the laggards kind of participated into the rally. Industrials were negative 8.1% till October. In November, they rallied 18%, and year to date, sector became positive. Financials were negative 20% year to date. They rallied 25% in this month of November. And now, year to date, they are marginally negative at 2.1%. Clearly, across the sector, we saw rally in the month of November. However, maximum rally occurred in sectors like financials, industrials, real estate, which were at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of return. Next slide, please. If we see the month of November, all sector delivered positive return. And this was most broad-based rally on a monthly basis in our market. Next slide, please. In BSE 200, 91% of stocks rose in the month of November 20. If you had picked up any stock on the 1st of November, chances are that you will be sitting on good amount of profit. This rally has caught people by surprise. Giants who had anticipated in March and April that markets will not recover now have to revise their estimate of market, and it's a substantial revision. Morgan Stanley will be taking Sensex targets from 32,000 to 50,000, and Goldman Sachs from about 9,600 to 14,100 on Nifty. Our call at this point of time, valuation-wise, equity is neutral weight. Momentum-wise, flows are very strong, and hence one can remain technically overweight if they want to play it aggressively. But clearly from a valuation-wise, after this rally, markets have become fairly valued. When we say equal weight, neutral weight allocation, it doesn't mean sell equity. It just means if you had invested substantial amounts in March, April correction and become overweight on equity, this is time to take some profit. Next slide, please. From a market cap to GDP ratio point of view, our long-term average is roughly 75%. Now we are trading at 91% market cap to GDP ratio. Mind you, globally, market cap to GDP ratio is at 115%. Next slide, please. If you look at earnings versus bond yield, we are near our long-term average of 0.74%, and which is why we are saying this is time to be equal weight to equity. Next slide, please. If you look at forward PE, we are now marginally above our long-term average on a PE basis and somewhere around on a price to book basis. Next slide, please. If you look at trailing basis, on the price to book, we are somewhere near historical average. On a price to earning, as earnings were depressed, we are trading at far above historical average. Next slide, please. If you look at market capitalization in between large cap and mid caps are still down 12% from peak level, whereas large caps are trading at their near lifetime high level. Put all these things together. Next slide, please. Our view is that this is time to be equal weight equity, no leverage position in this market, marginally overweight small and mid cap, and marginally underweight large cap. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. There were lots of noise during last 6-9 months, and we thought it is extremely important to recognize those distributors and advisors who carried right message to the investors. When market valuation was looking expensive, our equity allocation was 39%. We gave a signal of becoming underweight equity. With the benefit of hindsight, we should have made it 20%, but fair enough, we are not God. On 24th of March at 7,801 Nifty, when market was cheap, we were 75% in equity. It was a call to be overweight equity. Well, we could have been 80% equity, which was maximum permissible, but 75% is not bad. On 27th November, as we speak, at 12,962 Nifty, we are at 40% equity allocation, which is kind of equal weight, neutral weight to equity. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Avinash. These are the SIP returns across our funds. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. At this point of time, where one should focus from an equity allocation point of view, we think it is time to move from static balanced fund to dynamic balance advantage fund. In balanced fund, allocation to equity will remain constant at 75% or 70%, whereas in balance advantage fund, as we demonstrated, equity allocation can move up and down depending upon valuation of the market. Over a cycle, balance advantage fund has delivered similar return like balance fund or better, but at a substantially lower volatility. So one trend which is worth noticing is to shift money from balance fund to balance advantage fund. Next slide, please. Kotak Balance Advantage Fund, as I mentioned earlier, has been doing well. In last 12 months, industry has lost about 1,200 crores in balance category. Kotak Balance Advantage Fund has received 1,453 crore. Next slide, please. If we look at Balance Advantage Fund since its launch between September 18, 19 and 20, when index was roughly at about 11,000 level, this fund continued to move up. In November end, Nifty is at about 12,968. But this fund, if Nifty was tracking or delivering return like KBEF, it would have been at 14,000 level. It's almost 1,000 points plus performance appreciation or additional alpha generation. We also run a Kotak Asset Allocator Fund. Balance Advantage Fund allocates between 20 to 80% in equity. Kotak Asset Allocator Fund invests between 0 to 100% in equity. This fund has also delivered double-digit return over last 1, 3, 5 and since inception. This Balance Advantage Fund as well as Kotak Asset Allocator Fund is fill it, shut it, forget it kind of fund. As fund manager decides how to allocate investment in various equity depending upon valuation of the market. People who are willing to take marginal risk should look at Kotak Debt Hybrid Fund. This fund has delivered pretty good return over last 5 years. And this has been achieved primarily through fixed income allocation. Up to 25% in this fund is allocated to equity. In the low interest rate environment, Kotak Debt Hybrid Fund, which earlier we used to call as monthly income plan, will be more appropriate for conservative investors. Next slide, please. Even within large cap, it's better to shift to those large cap funds which are delivering alpha, which are delivering better performance vis-a-vis peer group. And Kotak Blue Chip will be definitely featuring over there. Next slide, please. From a sector point of view, considering the underperformance in this calendar year, though in the month of November, finance sector has done well, we still believe there is some room for upside, and hence finance and technology, fintech, could be one opportunity to invest from a sectoral point of view. You can capture fintech opportunity via Kotak Focused Fund or via a combination of Kotak Pioneer Fund and Kotak Banking ETF. The next question which comes, should we invest in gold? After touching $2,000, gold has corrected to about $1,850. Next slide, please. This is normal in any commodity where after a rally, it takes some amount of correction and then starts building base for future up move. we still believe gold has a lot of upside. Currently, being commodity, there is some amount of profit booking going on gold, but eventually over next 3 to 5 years, gold should outperform fixed income by a margin. Next slide, please. While investing in gold, do remember that in India, import duty is about 12.5%. Unless import duty is reduced, if import duty is reduced to zero, in one single day, gold prices in rupee terms could come down by 12.5%, and your investment in gold ETF or gold bond will be negative by 12.5% in one single day. So while investing in gold, be careful about import duty. Next slide, please. There is a lot of debate going on about active versus passive funds in alpha generation. I just want to highlight that globally, people compare gross of expense performance with TRI index. In India, we compare net of expenses performance with TRI index. Because comparison is with TRI, even passive funds underperform benchmark index between around 1%. Next slide, please. If you look at our funds, there are some funds which have not outperformed their benchmark index on a one-year basis. Some funds probably have not outperformed benchmark index on a 3-year basis by marginal amount. But by and large, majority of our funds have delivered alpha over benchmark indices. This performance has come despite severe restrictions we as fund house or as mutual fund industry have to face. One, in Nifty today, Reliance Industries Limited is 14%, but I as a fund house cannot go above 10% in any stock. Second, the fund has kept cash to meet redemptions, but index has zero cash. Third, in index, stock movement happens at closing prices with no impact cost. But as a fund house, when we have to buy or sell security, we have to pay transaction cost and we also have to pay impact cost. If we keep this limitations of cash, impact cost, and 10% cap on index or 10% cap on a stock, you will realize that we are still generating alpha and adding value to our client's portfolio. Next slide, please. This is the alpha generation of our SIP returns in different equity funds. And you will notice that bearing last 1 year, where the November rally has moved pretty sharply, by and large, our funds have delivered alpha over 3, 5, 7, and 10 years in the SIPs. Next slide, please. If we compare our fund performance from the bottom of the market to the current level, our funds have delivered returns between 48% for Balance Advantage Fund to 92% for our Pioneer Fund. This is the kind of returns which our funds have delivered over last 8 months. Next slide, please. Coming to the fixed income side, the banking system continues to remain surplus. I think we are now entering an era where RBI will keep banking system with surplus liquidity for some time to come. Next slide, please. Because of that high liquidity, now short-term rates have corrected sharply. Overnight rate is roughly about 4% for repo and 3.35% for reverse repo. But the call money rates or CDLO rates, which are now called TREPS rate, are all trading between 2.5 to 3% range. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, inflation is running high because of food, fuel, and vegetable prices. The core CPI is roughly about 5.47 for the month of October 2020, well within RBI's comfort zone. Next slide, please. RBI has delivered a pro-growth policy, and compared to previous policy where they had thought only Jan-March 21 quarter will be positive, now they are expecting even October-December quarter to be marginally positive. Next slide, please. The debt FPIs, like their equity counterparts, have turned bullish on India, and after taking out almost $9 billion in the month of March, have started putting their money into Indian debt market. Next slide. Because of the FPI flows and RBI's credit policy, slowly and steadily rates have come down and spreads have started narrowing. Next slide, please. Even in state development loans, despite supply, the spreads have started narrowing as RBI conducted open market operation for state development loans. Next slide, please. One impact of this high liquidity is that short-term rates have corrected dramatically, but mid to long-end rates haven't corrected as much. The 10-year minus 1-year government security now trades at 258 basis points. It is almost a decade high, which shows steepness of the yield curve. Next slide, please. The same steepness is visible in corporate bond, and we believe the 5 to 10-year segment for corporate bond appears to be attractive from an investment point of view. Next slide, please. The spreads have come down to pre-COVID level in AAA and AA plus names, but AA and AA minus names have some juice left as investors are not adventurous enough to take AA minus paper. On the fixed income side, we think RBI has room to cut rates, but they will wait for inflation numbers to come down. The inflation is more driven by food, fuel, and vegetable prices. As Rabi season crop starts arriving, hopefully inflation will be less of an issue going forward. These are some of the points which we would like to highlight about Kotak Mutual Fund. When we were facing redemptions in credit risk funds in the month of April, we had highlighted that look at our credit portfolio, look at our credit risk before taking any rash decision. In the month of April also, I had 93% of my portfolio in treasury bills, government securities, and AAA rated or even plus rated short-term papers. Below AA minus was just 1.22% of portfolio. Today, in the month of November, AA minus and below remains at 0.46% of portfolio. We continue to invest your money in higher credit quality assets. Next slide, please. We had also mentioned that people who stay back in credit risk fund will not face higher risk. We will sell lower rated papers to meet redemptions so that we are fair to investors who are going out, investors who are staying back, and investors who are entering the fund. In the month of April, my exposure to below AA minus was 32% of the fund. Despite fund size coming down by roughly about 30%, AA minus and below exposure is curtailed at about 14%. This way, we have ensured that We are fair to outgoing investors as well as incoming investors. If you look at liquidity position of Kotak Mutual Fund Debt Fund, it continues to remain robust. Next slide, please. On the debt side, investment opportunity is linked to your investment profile. Don't try to put liquid money into overnight fund and overnight fund into liquid fund, even though both of them are very safe product. The best way to look at any debt fund will be to look at their average maturity and see if it meets with your horizon or not. Next slide, please. Debt funds on a 3-year basis have delivered higher single-digit return. Even in credit risk fund and medium-term fund returns, though not as good as duration fund, is still comparable at higher single-digit. Dynamic bond fund continues to do well, and one will have to invest in dynamic bond fund from a return point of view. Next slide, please. Kotak Medium Term Fund is fund which was earlier geared towards slightly higher credit quality papers, towards slightly higher credit risk papers. There has been a change in the investment management over there. And now this fund has YTM of about 7%, and the spread over comparable credit quality paper is almost 2 percentage point. This one fund from a carry point of view will look attractive for retail investors. Next slide, please. If we look at various category of funds like banking and PSU, low duration, credit risk fund or medium term fund, they do provide reasonable spread over comparable credit quality papers. Next slide, please. In the Kotak bond fund, almost 100% portfolio is towards government securities and public sector enterprises. Only 0.4% of portfolio is in private sector enterprise paper. We are very happy to announce launch of India's first global REIT fund of fund. Today, this fund is unique fund in the sense that it provides you opportunity to invest in real estate segment across Asia Pacific ex-Japan. This fund is managed by Sumitomo Mitsui Asset Management. They are invested across Asia, but majority coming in Singapore, Australia, and Hong Kong. And they are not only invested in residential and commercial premises, but they are also invested in data centers, logistics, and warehouses. This fund is open for subscription from 7th of December, and it will close on 21st of December.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.